In Augusta, Georgia, former President of the United States, Dwight D. Eisenhower, will face the nation.
Mr. President, there's a lot of talk and increases, it seems, by the day that Mr. Nixon may end up with the nomination again next year. Do you think that, does that look like a likelihood to you?
Well, I don't know. As far as Vice President Nixon is concerned, everything he said to me is that he has no interest in it. Now, if he has changed his mind or even is more receptive, why, all right, but I haven't known about it. So I had assumed that he'd removed himself completely. Now, if there should be one of these deadlocks and they turn around, why, I would think he'd be one of the likely persons to be examined and maybe approached, because he is, after all, a very knowledgeable and a very courageous type of fellow.
Mr. President, in your book and in other writings and public pronouncements, you have left no doubt how sincerely you feel that Vice President Nixon is perhaps the best qualified man for the presidency in the sense of experience and the apprenticeship he served under you. But some of the reviewers on your book have suggested that they find in the book what they interpret as a coolness toward Mr. Nixon. They particularly note that you refer to him throughout as Mr. Nixon or the Vice President. Never seems to get very warm in the relationship. And they also note that he was not present at that 1956 conference we were talking about a moment ago. I'm just wondering if you can clarify your personal relationship with the Vice President.
Well, strangely enough, that impression has just persisted throughout these years, and I've never known why. It's like the one that people said in back about 1955 or 6 when they were thinking that he might become then the candidate, said, well, I don't like Nixon. And you'd say, why? I don't know. I don't like it. Well, now, in the same way, people have said, well, you don't like Nixon. Well, nothing could be further from the truth. I not only like him, but I like his family. But in '62, when I thought in my position I was now freed from the obligation of going into political activity all over the country, the one man that I was worried about particularly was Dick Nixon out in California. And I went out there across the continent just because for that one evening, I think they're having one of those closed circuit affairs. And I went out there just to make a talk for him. And I put my favorable opinions into the most emphatic language I possibly could. And I've done it more than once in front of press conferences, as you people well know. Now, I tell you, I think I may have unconsciously referred to him more as Mr. Nixon or Vice President Nixon just because of respect for his position. To show you, I'll tell you a little story. Right after, maybe a few months after I was in the White House, my grandson came in there. He came in one evening when the Vice President was there. And David was then, I suppose, 5 or maybe 6 years old. And so we had around the house had always tried to make the grandchildren understand that there was nothing special about them. Or nor about this house, nor about their grandparents. So finally, David came in the room and I introduced him to the Vice President. I said, David, this is the Vice President of the United States. He was playing there and with his toys. He dropped them and he looked up, his eyes got that big. He said, the Vice President, wow. Well, so you see, there is still a sense of, right down to this little grandchild, there is a sense of you might say, a respect for the vice presidential office, and possibly I just was a little bit of prey of it, fell prey to that. But I assure you, there's nothing whatsoever that I know between the two of us that is at all creating a mutual dislike, hostility, or anything else. On the contrary, I like him and his whole entire family.